This meeting is being recorded.
Welcome to Only God Rescued Me, my journey from satanic ritual abuse. I'm Lisa Meister, your host, and I am an SRA Victor. And I am bringing back today Lynn, who is she was here several months ago giving her testimony, and she is a deaf SRA survivor, Victor. And so welcome back today, Lynn.
Thank you, Lisa. I'm grateful to be back.
I'm so glad you came. It's not easy being a deaf survivor, having special needs in the midst of a marginalized group of people is impossible. And you had a really bad experience going to a conference a few months ago. Can you tell us about that?
Well, I have been planning to go to this conference for quite some time. And the ministry is all about serving survivors in a positive way. And so before they even go, the attendees are encouraged to find their own transportation and meet their own needs. And volunteers are encouraged to watch the video or attend volunteer meetings. So the two I actually traveled with chose not to watch the volunteer information. Right then, that was my first red flag. So as we progressed along, I realized that it wasn't going to be a positive experience, and I was going to have to lean on God a lot. I'd already had everything arranged for when I was going to go home, and I didn't know how that was all going to come together, but God already knew what this outcome was going to be. So during the breakouts that I chose, I was really humiliated and embarrassed when the interpreters decided to inject their own belief system, because the speakers are picked by the ministry because of their experience and their education and giving the feedback that people need. So that happened several times. And I went to a luncheon, which I was invited to, and I realized that I was so tired of what I was already going through with this specific individual. But I know she didn't have an understanding of what she was doing wrong. But at the meeting, I just realized that I was listening, I was trying to get through it in a positive way, but it didn't end very well. I wound up leaving right at the end of the meeting, and I just wanted to be with God, be with my journal, trying to figure things out. And my feelings are all over the place because they're just now surfacing. I'm just now being able to identify the feelings, which is common for survivors, but especially for me. So I was hurt, angry, I was humiliated, I was frustrated, and I just wanted to run. So all night long, I just stayed in God's arms. The next morning, I realized I had to arrange for going home. And I knew the way that was already set up that I would not be able to tolerate anymore. So God gave me the courage to speak up during the breakfast. And that resulted in my series of things happening that I never imagined would be possible. So long story short, they wound up leaving me there at the retreat, giving it all to the minister to take care of. That God already took care of all those plans. He already put an interpreter in place that was just thinking about doing the worship songs, and we bonded with that. I'm so grateful that I had the worship music to listen to prior to going home with somebody I didn't even know. But I felt good about it because I knew she was a survivor. And on the way home, we got to know one another. And she brought me all the way home, which that wasn't the plan. We were going to go to her state first, and then I was going to go home another way. But she decided to go ahead and make that journey all the way here for me, drop me off. So what I want to say is people with special needs already have challenges, and those that are survivors have even more to deal with. It is so critical that people that work with them honor and respect their wishes, even if it doesn't look like it's supposed to be done, or you might need to say something. Let the survivor make that decision. I can make my own decisions on the questions I want to ask or concerns that I have. I don't need that type of support anymore. I needed it when I was little and I didn't get it, so I've learned otherwise now. Um, I'm really, really praying that if anybody does decide to volunteer, to please consider taking all the information in. You'll learn things about the ministry that you didn't know before, even if you've been a part of the ministry a long time. And some verses I wanted to go over because God wants me to know that we're all accountable for our actions and reactions, and He will hold us to us. And so this verse, for we must all stand before Christ to be judged, comes out of 2 Corinthians 5:10 in the NIV Bible. So each of us will give an account of ourselves before God. Romans 14:12, and as an iron sharpens iron, so a friend sharpens another. Proverbs 27:17. I know that I'm being held accountable for everything I say, and I don't want to hurt anyone. I don't want to seem judgmental. God has put me before hundreds and hundreds of survivors as an encourager, a prayer warrior for the last 4 years. I've learned a great deal about what not to say and what to say because it can send them down the wrong way. When I got home after the retreat, I had a lot to go through. Suicide was almost an option. It was stronger than it has ever been in my entire life. And being an SRA, we often have to deal with that anyway. But it has been over 30 years since my first memory. And the last time I had that, I was in a hospital. But this time, I just reached out to my prayer minister, counselor, and she prayed for me, and she told me to get in touch with God, to stay with Him. So all that week, every single day, I had to make sure that I stayed with God to fight this thing. I couldn't do anything else. So this was almost a life-ending experience. Don't want that for anyone. I would want that on my hands, and I don't think anyone else wants that on their hands either. That's my testimony. I've discovered that I do have insiders, better known as CIDs. None of them can talk, but they can cause me a lot of issues. And so I've been chasing my eating disorders around in circles. But now I think I can lay it all to rest because I know God has me saying things now I'm supposed to say to honor what I've been through and to hopefully help that no one else will go through this as well. Thank you, Lisa, for the opportunity.
Can I ask you a couple questions?
You sure can.
So during this retreat that you were at, you said that you were feeling humiliated. Can you go a little more into, because people can make us feel bad, but I want to explain why with SRA it's even worse than I just felt humiliated. There's a lot of emotions teared. So like, was it pulling you to feelings of when you were in rituals as a youngster, feelings of not being safe, that sort of thing?
I think the humiliation comes from knowing that I know what an interpreter is supposed to be doing with me. They don't have to become a part of the deaf person if the deaf person doesn't want them to. So when the breakouts were happening, when the interpreters chose to ask their own questions or interject their own opinion, that came from me, representing me. I did not ask for anyone to ask any questions.
Oh, so they were asking questions that made it look like you were asking questions.
Right. And wow. answering questions or giving information that it did not come from me at all, did not come from me. So that was part of the problem I had. Also criticizing people for saying signs a different way, because the primary person who's the founder of this ministry is a certified interpreter. She's had an interpreting for a long time ago. But all of our signs change over the years because sign language changes and grows. And even I can't keep up with the latest signs for a lot of things. So when this interpreter saw some of the signs that she didn't think were correct, she outwardly corrected them. And this caused me embarrassment. I'm sure it cost the founding member embarrassment too. So, and then she also corrected me. So it's more important to accept the person for the way they are and the way they talk. My communication is going to be different than other people's. I think that reflects each of us. But I just realized that everything that she was doing was overpowering the way I wanted to come across. And it was so much better for me to be separated. So there were times when I had her go with the other interpreter and just winged it, so to speak, because I was with somebody I really respected. And so we were able to interact. If I didn't understand something, she would repeat it. So that made everything the way it should have been.
So how did it connect to suicide ideology, do you think?
I think because all my feelings were on my sleeve, and I'm deep healing. And I didn't understand why I had to go through all that when I needed to focus on myself and keep on healing what I needed to heal. And so when I got here home, I realized that I had been abandoned, that things had taken a change that I had not expected. And I just realized I didn't have any control over what had happened to me. I think my DID just really wanted to give up because it's been such a hard road to get from not understanding myself to understanding myself better. And I'm not exactly sure why the suicide was so strong, but I just didn't want to live anymore. I didn't want to have to deal with all the stuff that I had been bled through just recently at the retreat and what I have to go through now for healing. That I recently learned also with the second baptism by an ordained minister and professional interpreter with them, that I would have missed his blessing because he is making all things new in me. I've got so many blessings that just happened in the past 2 months. If I had ended my life, I would have missed all that. And it became very obvious to me to go ahead and let people know how serious it is. You say the wrong thing or you do the wrong thing. Totally respect the survivor in the space that they're in. And even when I was giving my testimony to you the first time, I had asked for her not to bring a specific individual with her to the meeting. She did. And right then, the distrust got even stronger. And I think then it also shut the door to any type of real relationship or friendship that we would develop. Because I realized she didn't respect me as a survivor. So I just need to stay with people who are not abusive. And I didn't want to be with anybody that was.
Did she believe in SRA?
I don't think she believes I went through it. Just because of the way she reacts and acts. I honestly don't think that she really believes that I've gone through it and I've survived and I am a natural survivor of SRA.
I can't imagine, because it took so long for you to understand your feelings and then to be able to start expressing them correctly, to have somebody then going against what you were trying to express, that the angst in that, here I am again, vulnerable and unable to be who I am, which has been your whole life, really.
Yeah, yeah.
So now coming into who Lynn is a good thing.
Yes.
And this is part of that. This is you being a victor, saying, I had this problem and this is why it was a problem and this is how it needs to be fixed. That is powerful, Lynn. I mean, think of how far you've come in these 30 years.
Yes. Yes.
Does that feel good?
It does, and it also feels good the amount of people I have to for my support system. That was just you and lots of other people on the other side also. I won't mention because I don't have the name to do that or the permission to mention their name. But I think if I had not had the group that I'm in, it would have been a very lonely existence. But I started reaching out to you and to others in the group, and that also helped me pull through that week. Because I was not the only one going through it. It just happened to be a week where we have a lot more rituals going on naturally. So all of those body memories were happening on top of what I had just gone through. That may have been a definite factor in that. I just couldn't get over the disrespect that I witnessed, and it's not something I would ever want someone else to have to go through.
Right. And I got the text that your interpreter had left you at the hotel and you had no way to get home. You know, the horror of that just overwhelmed me, got right into, it's like, Lord, she needs to get home, and she can't communicate by herself very well or very effectively. So like to call a cab, to you do any of that, you can't. And you were far away from, what was it? You did it airport or bus, and you were far away.
I rode up with the interpreter, which I paid for my way with them as well. And I rode back with a survivor that was in another state. So what was really neat is she kept reaching out to me during the whole retreat. And I didn't realize how desperately I was going to need her at the end. After I realized the interpreters were gone and we were going to have to come up with another interpreter for the worship service, she came, and I asked her, can I still go home with you? And she said, yes, you're free to go home. We'll get you home. And let the family member know that I already had a way home, that everything would be okay. But inside I had all this turmoil going on and trauma. I felt abandoned because I know what the ministry is supposed to do and what they don't do, they're not responsible for because they have to draw a line somewhere. And that's one thing. And one of the interpreters just misunderstood that they would go ahead and arrange for my ride home, and it would just be all that big of a problem. And I thought, no, God already took care of this. But I couldn't say anything because I couldn't believe I was being left, even though I had planned that I was going to keep my Bible in front of me and read the Bible all the way home if I needed to, just to get through this experience. But I'm glad it worked out like it did, because I realized how uncomfortable I was. And it would have just made even more, my feelings even more intense, I think, in the end. So God put me where he needed me to go and with who I need to go with to work all that out. But that's not the thing to do, is to leave. We're supposed to, if we bring into survivors, we're supposed to take them back home. It's coming the same way they came. And that's just something that I think everybody knows that's a part of the retreats. So I'm just grateful I had her, and we've been maintaining some contact. It's been a pretty cool experience. So,
did this experience make the dissociative parts come out in a way that you understood that they were there?
Yes, that's exactly what happened, Lisa. I'm convinced that because the same week was also my birthday, and our birthday rituals are horrible for the most part. Mine was no different. So my body remembers all those experiences that I had. Yes, my DIGs did come out and were badgering me. I was going in circles trying to figure out everything and reaching out to you guys, just try to understand what was going on, what was happening in me. I reached out to my prayer counselor, and we talked online quite a bit. And then she always led me to go straight to my Heavenly Father for answers. Well, he gave me answers, but he also made me aware that I had so many feelings that I needed to work through at that time, acknowledge for myself. And that was a good thing. But it took took a long time for me to wade through all that. There's just so much stuff that I never imagined would be there. But I think I have a better understanding of myself. I have a better understanding of what I can and cannot do and cannot tolerate. I think that always all out of this retreat experience as well.
I think this also highlights how important it is to have an SRA survivor community, so that there's people that understand that feeling of being alone and being vulnerable, and how that can get to suicide very quickly. And that, you know, this is a serious thing. This isn't just, oh, she got left, she can find her own way. This is a big safety issue. And as survivors, we don't want to be in safety issues. You know, we work hard to get those out of our life. So I'm really glad that you've had people around you that can be there for you. And for people listening today, if you do not have a survivor community, you need to find one. There's survivorship is out there. And we have the SRA Christian Women Survivor Support Group on Facebook for Christian survivors, where, you know, we can come around people when they need it, you know, especially birthdays. Birthdays are hard for every survivor to get through, because those are the worst rituals that we have to go through. So, you know, having people that know that, oh, it's your birthday, how are you? You know, happy birthday, how are you doing?
Yeah, it was my birthday. I'm past that. So, but yeah, I don't know what I would have done if I hadn't had the community to reach out to, because they really get it, even though they're not deaf, but they really do get it. And all of you have accepted me as I am. My deafness was caused through residual abuse. When I was a little, I think I was probably deaf before I was a year old. So I've not liked being deaf at all. And I've always wanted to be in with the hearing community, which isn't really exactly what deaf people want. But I don't feel that comfortable unless I am with you guys. And so when I reach out to you, you know, if you post songs, it's always in lyrics, so I can be with it. The comments that you make really hit home. You all understand where I'm trying to learn more about the Bible, and some of you are much further along with that than I am. And it means a lot to me to have my sisters there. So thank you.
Well, and you add a lot to our community. You know, you're so warm, you're so understanding, and you're right there with encouragement. Before many other people get there, you're right there encouraging, and we really appreciate you with that, and trying to make it more accessible. Like, I honestly never thought about special needs survivors before you, and that's terrible. You know, it's like, why did I never think of that? And it's very important that we can be there to support all of us, because all of us really are special needs in our own ways.
Thank you. I've got my sisters on my mind too. So yeah, you guys are all very, very special to me too.
Well, thank you so much for coming on today, and come back again and keep giving us updates. I know you have some exciting things coming here in the next month, and God's moving you in some exciting ways.
Yes, my book is coming along. It's been the hardest thing I've ever written in my life, but it is coming along. It's healing me so much better, so much more deeply. And I think my book coach knew that that's exactly what I needed in order to get from point A to point B. And it's working. Those feelings are coming up. I'm dealing with them, and the writing is going smoothly. I'm now being able to write what really did happen and what was going on in my body, because God is showing me that. So I'll be glad when I get done.
Oh yeah.
I'm sure you were I'm sure you were glad when you got your book done as well. So
well, my kids were especially happy. I was not an easy person to be around while I was writing it. Yeah, I was a mess. Yeah.
Same thing. Same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think people understand with memoirs that they're not easy to sit and write. It's like, yeah, you know the information and you've been through it, so that's not the problem. It's all the emotional upheaval dealing with it, that's the problem. And then
Okay.
how do you explain how bad you felt? Or how do you explain the hopelessness that you felt? And so you got to wrestle with those concepts, and then those, you kind of sit in those feelings trying to find words, and it's really hard.
I'm also getting to do things that I would have never thought I would do before. And I don't think I would be in this position had this stuff had not happened to me. So, and I'm doing more things this month than I've ever done, trying to move and everything. But I'm just accepting it as what God puts in my path to do it. We do have some awesome Bible studies that we do in our groups. And the women are, each time they speak, they may be speaking in different terms for themselves, but they impact me and cause me to grow more towards my Jesus. And so I'm looking forward to a new one that we're getting started now.
Doing soul care. So that's a very good ministry.
Thank you. Thank you.
So thank you for coming on today, Lynn. God bless you.
Thank you for having me, Lisa. I really appreciate it.
Anytime.